My fingers trace the worn ivory keys of the upright piano in my studio apartment, muscle memory guiding them through Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, even as my mind calculates how many days I have left before eviction. 17. 17 days before my landlord makes good on his threat to change the locks. The Chicago winter seeps through the single-pane windows, turning my breath to mist in the dim afternoon light. I pull my grandmother's cardigan tighter around my shoulders, the wool threadbare but still carrying the faint scent of her lavender perfume, even 3 years after her death. The radiator in the corner hisses and clanks but produces no heat. It hasn't worked in 2 weeks, and my landlord stopped returning my calls after I told him I'd be late with rent. Again. I finish the Nocturne and check my phone. 3:47 p.m. The event coordinator said to arrive at the Gold Coast mansion by 6 p.m. sharp, which gives me just over 2 hours to make myself presentable for Chicago's elite. Tonight's gig pays $1,500, cash, for 4 hours of background music at a private dinner party. It's more than I've made in the past month combined, playing in hotel lobbies and coffee shops for tips that barely cover my transit fare. My reflection stares back at me from the bathroom mirror as I attempt to tame my dark hair into something elegant. The face looking back is thinner than it was a year ago, sharper in the cheekbones, shadows beneath hazel eyes that used to be bright with ambition. Juilliard feels like a lifetime ago now, not just 5 years. Back then, I was Elena Moretti, rising star, the girl with exceptional technical precision and rare emotional depth, according to my professors. Now I'm just another failed musician in a city full of them, playing Pachelbel's canon for the 100th time while wealthy people ignore me over cocktails. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. I apply makeup with a careful hand, covering the exhaustion, creating the illusion of the polished professional I'm supposed to be. The black dress I pull from my closet is the same one I wear to every upscale event, dry cleaned so many times the fabric has started to thin at the seams. But it's elegant, understated, appropriate for fading into the background while making beautiful sounds. The L train is packed with evening commuters, and I stand pressed against the door, my keyboard case heavy in my hand. I couldn't afford to keep my grandmother's baby grand when I had to downsize from a 1-bedroom to a studio, so I sold it for a fraction of its worth. The portable keyboard I carry now is a poor substitute, but it's what I have. I've learned to make do with less. Much less. By the time I emerge at the Gold Coast stop, darkness has fallen and the temperature has dropped another 10 degrees. The streets here are a different world from my neighborhood in Pilsen. Here, historic mansions sit behind wrought iron gates, their windows glowing with warm light. Mercedes and Teslas line the curbs. Women in fur coats walk small dogs wearing sweaters that probably cost more than my rent. The address the coordinator gave me leads to a limestone mansion that takes my breath away despite my nervousness. It's 4 stories of old money elegance, with a circular driveway and front steps wide enough to march an army up. Warm light spills from tall windows, and I can see chandeliers glittering inside. I climb the steps on shaking legs, my keyboard case suddenly feeling impossibly heavy. A man in a black suit opens the door before I can knock. He's broad-shouldered, with an earpiece and the unmistakable alertness of private security. "Service and trance is around back," he says flatly, already starting to close the door. "I'm the pianist," I say quickly. "Elena Moretti. I was hired for tonight's dinner." He studies me for a long moment, his eyes sweeping over my worn coat and scuffed shoes, clearly finding me lacking. Then he speaks into his wrist mic, "Pianist is here." A woman's voice crackles back, and he steps aside reluctantly. "Someone will meet you in the foyer." The interior is even more breathtaking than the exterior. Marble floors reflect the light from crystal chandeliers. A sweeping staircase curves upward, its banister gleaming dark wood. Artwork that looks museum quality hangs on silk-papered walls. The air smells of expensive flowers and something else, something subtle and masculine. Power, maybe. Or money. Sometimes they're the same thing. "Miss Moretti." A petite woman in her 50s approaches, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun. She wears all black and carries a tablet like a weapon. "I'm Mrs. Chun, the house manager. You're 7 minutes early." "Good." She doesn't offer to shake my hand or help with my keyboard. The piano is in the drawing room. You'll play during cocktails and dinner. Mr. Constantine prefers classical repertoire, nothing contemporary. Keep the volume low, background only. You are not to speak to the guests unless directly addressed. Understood? Yes, ma'am, I say, following her through a corridor lined with more expensive art. The restroom is down that hall if you need it. You'll have a 15-minute break between cocktails and dinner. There's water and coffee in the butler's pantry, but stay out of sight of the guests during your break. She pushes open a set of double doors. Any questions? About 1,000, starting with who Mr. Constantine is and why his home feels more like a fortress than a residence. But I shake my head. No, ma'am. The drawing room is larger than my entire apartment. A Steinway grand piano sits near the windows, its black lacquer surface reflecting the fireplace flames. My fingers itch to touch it. It's been so long since I've played on an instrument of this quality. Mrs. Chun checks her watch. Guests arrive in 20 minutes. Begin playing at 6:30 sharp. She leaves, and I'm alone with the Steinway. I set down my keyboard case, unnecessary now, and approach the piano like a supplicant approaching an altar. When I lift the fallboard and let my fingers rest on the keys, I almost weep. The touch is perfect, the action responsive and smooth. This instrument costs more than I'll make in 5 years. I warm up with scales, feeling the piano respond to my touch, then transition into Debussy's Clair de Lune. The acoustics in the room are perfect, and for the first time in months, I forget about eviction notices and empty bank accounts. For these few moments, I'm just a pianist and an instrument, creating something beautiful. The guests begin arriving at precisely 6:30. I watch from my position at the piano as men in expensive suits and women dripping with jewelry enter the drawing room. They accept champagne from servers in crisp uniforms and cluster in small groups, their laughter cultured and restrained. I play Vivaldi, then Bach, letting my fingers move through familiar pieces while my mind wanders. That's when I see him. He enters the room last, and the atmosphere shifts immediately. Conversations pause mid-sentence. People straighten their postures. A path opens for him through the crowd as if choreographed. He's tall, perhaps 6'3", with dark hair silvering slightly at the temples. His suit is so perfectly tailored it seems like a second skin, charcoal gray with a crisp white shirt and no tie. But it's his face that arrests me. Strong jaw, sharp cheekbones, and eyes so dark they're almost black. He moves with the controlled grace of a predator, and when those eyes sweep the room, I feel the assessment in them, cataloging, calculating, missing nothing. This must be Mr. Constantine. He greets his guests with the minimum courtesy required, shaking hands, nodding at comments, but his attention is elsewhere. I see him glance toward the windows, toward the doors, tracking the security personnel who hover at the edges of the room. Whatever this dinner party is, it's not purely social. I transition into Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 21, keeping my eyes on the sheet music I don't actually need, trying to be invisible as instructed. But I feel his gaze on me. When I risk a glance up, he's watching me with an intensity that makes my fingers stumble slightly on the keys. I recover quickly, but heat crawls up my neck. Mrs. Chin appears at the drawing room entrance and announces that dinner is served. The guests move toward the dining room, and I stand, flexing my hands. 15-minute break. Then I'll continue playing during the meal from a piano I noticed in the corner of the dining room. I'm heading toward the butler's pantry for water when I hear voices from a side hallway. Male voices, low and urgent. I shouldn't eavesdrop, but something in their tone stops me. Confirmed. 3 vehicles, parked on the street 2 blocks over. The voice is unfamiliar, tense. How many? This voice I recognize. Constantine. But it's different now, stripped of social polish, cold as winter steel. At least 8 that we've spotted. Could be more. They're trying to look inconspicuous, but our perimeter team made them 20 minutes ago. Silence. Then, the Volkov brothers? That would be my guess, sir. They knew about tonight's dinner. My heart begins to pound. I don't know who the Volkov brothers are, but the menace in these men's voices is unmistakable. I press myself against the wall, afraid to move and draw attention. Security status. Constantine asks. All entry points covered. But if they're planning to move during dinner, we're sitting ducks in that dining room. Too many windows, too many civilians. Civilians. The word sends ice through my veins. Whatever is about to happen, the other dinner guests have no idea they're in danger. I won't cancel, Constantine says flatly. That's what they want. To make me look weak, unreliable to my associates. We proceed as planned, but double the interior security. No one enters or exits until I give clearance. Architected narrative tension through coded warning and character backstory integration. This is good. I've set up the danger. Now I need to get Elena back to the piano and have her witness something that makes her realize the threat is immediate and escalating. Then she needs to make the decision to warn Constantine using Morse code. I need to establish earlier that she knows Morse code. Let me add that in her thought process. Maybe her father taught her? Or grandfather? I'll weave it in naturally. The Morse code for ambush outside stay in needs to be embedded in wrong notes during a piece. This is the key moment, the inciting incident. This is not a normal dinner party. These are not normal people. And I am trapped in a mansion with what sounds like an imminent attack planned against my employer and his guests. I should leave, claim illness, collect whatever portion of my fee I can, and get out. But even as the thought forms, I know it's impossible. The security guard said no one enters or exits without clearance. And besides, if I run now, I don't get paid. 17 days until eviction. My mind races as I return to the dining room. The piano here is smaller, an upright positioned in the corner, but still of excellent quality. The dining table is long and formal, set for 12 with china and crystal that probably costs more than a car. Constantine sits at the head, his posture relaxed, his face revealing nothing of the conversation I just overheard. I begin playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, the familiar notes flowing from my fingers while my eyes scan the room. The windows. He's right, there are too many windows, tall ones that overlook the street. I can see the darkness beyond them, and now that I'm looking, I notice the way the security personnel have positioned themselves. Not casually, strategically. One of them speaks quietly into his wrist mic, his eyes on the windows. Then I see it. A flash of movement outside, just beyond the pool of light from the house. A figure, then another. They're trying to stay in shadow, but the falling snow catches the streetlight, and I can see them moving into position. My fingers continue playing, but my mind is screaming. They're out there right now. Whatever is being planned, it's happening. I could stand up, interrupt the dinner, cause a scene. But what would I say? I overheard something I wasn't supposed to hear, and now I see suspicious people outside? I'm just the pianist. They dismiss me. Or worse, Constantine would know I was eavesdropping. I could lose the fee I desperately need. But if I do nothing, and something happens, my grandfather's voice echoes in my memory. He taught me Morse code when I was 12, a retired Navy signalman who filled my childhood with stories of ships and communication across impossible distances. "Elena," he'd said, making me tap out messages on the kitchen table. Sometimes the quietest communication is the loudest. Remember that. My hands hover over the keys. It's insane. Absolutely insane. But it's the only way I can think of to warn Constantine without causing panic, without revealing I know something I shouldn't. I transition from Beethoven to Schubert's Serenade, a piece I know by heart. And then, deliberately, carefully, I begin hitting wrong notes. Not random mistakes. Specific ones. A pattern. ... Dash dash dash. ... A-M, B-U-S, H. I pause, let the melody continue correctly for a measure, then begin again. O-U-T, S, I-D. My pulse pounds in my ears. Is anyone even paying attention? Constantine is deep in conversation with the man to his right. The other guests are focused on their food, their wine, their small talk. I continue the warning, embedding it in wrong notes that sound almost like mistakes, like a nervous pianist making errors under pressure. S-T-A-Y-I-N. Then I return to playing the piece correctly, my heart racing so fast I feel dizzy. I did it. Whether it matters, whether anyone noticed, I tried. For 30 seconds, nothing changes. The dinner continues. Constantine laughs at something his guest says, reaching for his wine glass. Then his hand freezes, suspended in midair. His head turns slowly toward me, those dark eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that steals my breath. He heard it. He understood. Constantine stands abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. The conversations around the table falter, die. Every eye turns to him. "Forgive me, my friends," he says, his voice smooth as silk despite what must be adrenaline coursing through his veins. "I've just remembered an urgent matter that requires my attention. Please, continue enjoying your meal. I'll return momentarily." He doesn't wait for responses. He's already moving, gesturing sharply to two of the security personnel. They converge on him as he strides from the dining room, and I catch fragments of his rapid-fire instructions. "Lockdown. Now. And find out who the fuck vetted tonight's guest list." Mrs. Chen appears in the doorway, her composed expression slipping for just a moment as Constantine speaks to her. She nods crisply and moves to the windows, drawing heavy drapes across them with practiced efficiency. "Just creating a more intimate atmosphere," she says brightly to the confused guests. I keep playing, my fingers moving through Schubert, even though they're trembling now. "What have I done? What have I started?" One of the security guards speaks quietly into his radio. "All units, code black. Repeat, code black. Seal the perimeter." The dining room doors close. Not slammed, but firmly. Deliberately. I hear the soft click of locks engaging. The guests are beginning to notice the shift in atmosphere. A woman in diamonds leans toward her companion, whispering behind her hand. A man near the window stands, frowning at the drawn curtains. Then Constantine returns, and the room stills again. But he's not alone. He's flanked by 4 men in tactical gear that definitely wasn't visible before, carrying things that make my blood run cold. Weapons. Serious ones. "My apologies for the disruption," Constantine says, his voice carrying that same cultured smoothness, but now I can hear the steel beneath it. "It seems we have uninvited guests attempting to crash our party. For everyone's safety, we'll be remaining inside for the next hour or so while my security team handles the situation." Handles the situation? A portly man in his 60s stands, his face flushing. "Constantine, what the hell is going on? Are we in danger?" "You are perfectly safe," Constantine assures him, "as long as you remain calm and follow instructions. Please sit. Finish your dinner. Think of it as an unexpected adventure to share at your next social gathering." But his eyes aren't on the portly man. They're on me. He crosses the room in 4 long strides, and suddenly he's standing beside the piano, looking down at me. Up close, he's even more imposing. I can see the faint scar on his jaw, the flecks of silver in his dark eyes. I can smell his cologne, cedar and something spicy expensive. "Keep playing," he says quietly, for my ears only. My fingers, which had frozen on the keys, resume movement automatically. "How did you know Morse code?" His voice is low, almost conversational, but there's an edge to it. "Danger. Assessment. My grandfather," I whisper back, not taking my eyes from the keys. "He was Navy. Your grandfather." He's quiet for a moment, and I can feel him studying me. "And what exactly did you see that prompted your rather creative warning?" I risk a glance up at him. His expression is unreadable, but something in his eyes suggests genuine curiosity beneath the interrogation. "Men. Outside. Moving into position near the windows. And I overheard you in the hallway, talking about the Volkov brothers." His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. "You overheard a private conversation. I wasn't trying to. I was getting water during my break, and instead of minding your own business, you decided to play savior." But there's no anger in his voice. If anything, it sounds like amusement. "Do you have any idea how much danger you just put yourself in?" My hands falter on the keys. "I what?" He leans down, close enough that I can feel his breath against my ear. "By warning me, you've chosen a side, Miss Moretti. The Volkov brothers don't forgive, and they sure as hell don't forget." Terror floods through me, cold and absolute. "What have I done?" "But," he continues, straightening, "you also may have just saved a dozen lives, including mine. So the question becomes, what do I do with a pianist who knows too much and is now too valuable to let walk out of here?" Outside, I hear sounds. Shouts. Something that might be gunfire, distant but unmistakable. Several of the dinner guests gasp. A woman screams softly. Constantine doesn't even flinch. He pulls out his phone, reads something on the screen, then addresses the room. "My security team is handling the intrusion. No one is getting inside this house. You have my word. To Mrs. Chun, he says, "Take our guests to the library. More comfortable, fewer windows. Keep them there until I give the all clear." Then to me, "You, come with me." But that wasn't a request, Miss Moretti. The other guests are being ushered out by Mrs. Chun and additional staff who've appeared from somewhere. I stand on shaking legs, leaving the piano, following Constantine as he strides from the dining room. We move through the mansion, passing security personnel speaking urgently into radios, until we reach what appears to be his private study. He holds the door open, and I step inside, my heart pounding so hard I'm certain he can hear it. The door closes. We're alone. The study is all dark wood and leather, bookshelves lining the walls, a massive desk dominating the space. But what catches my attention are the monitors on one wall, showing security camera feeds from around the property. I can see figures moving in the darkness, bright muzzle flashes, tactical teams converging. "Sit," Constantine says, gesturing to a chair. I sit because my legs are about to give out anyway. He moves to a bar cart, pours 2 glasses of amber liquid, and hands me one. "Drink. You look like you're about to pass out." The whiskey burns going down, but it does steady my nerves fractionally. Constantine perches on the edge of his desk, studying me with those unreadable dark eyes. "Tell me, Elena Moretti, Juilliard graduate, currently 3 months behind on rent, working private events for cash under the table to avoid her student loan payments." My head snaps up. "How do you? I make it my business to know who enters my home. Your background check was completed 30 seconds after Mrs. Chin hired you." He takes a sip of his whiskey. "Tell me, what made you think warning me was worth the risk?" I meet his gaze, finding courage somewhere in the whiskey and the adrenaline. "Because I've spent the last year being invisible, playing music that people ignore, existing in the background of other people's lives. And tonight, for the first time in longer than I can remember, I had the chance to actually matter. To do something that meant something." Something shifts in his expression. Not softening, exactly, but recognition, perhaps. "You matter now," he says quietly. "For better or worse, Elena Moretti, you've placed yourself squarely in the center of a very dangerous game. And I need to decide what to do about that." He stands, moving to the windows behind his desk. Outside, the snow falls heavier now, obscuring whatever violence is occurring in the darkness. "You have 2 choices," he says, his back to me. "1, I pay you triple your fee, set you up in a new apartment far from Chicago, and you disappear. Never speak of tonight, never return, start over somewhere else." My throat is tight. "And the second choice." He turns, and the look in his eyes makes my breath catch. Intensity, interest, something that feels dangerous and magnetic all at once. "You stay. You work for me. Use that quick mind and those observant eyes for something more than playing background music. I need people I can trust, Elena. People who are smart enough to see danger coming and brave enough to act on it." He pauses. "People who understand Morse code. I'm a pianist," I whisper. "Not whatever it is you do." A ghost of a smile touches his lips. "I'm a businessman, Elena. I deal in imports, exports, logistics. Sometimes those dealings involve people who would rather conduct their business in unconventional ways. You're in the Mafia." He doesn't deny it. I prefer to think of myself as someone who facilitates difficult transactions. But yes, if you need a label, that one works. One of the monitors shows a tactical team securing several figures on the ground. The threat, I realize, has been neutralized. "Why would you trust me?" I ask. "You don't know me. I know you saved my life tonight. I know you're desperate enough to need money but principled enough to warn a stranger about danger. I know you're educated, talented, and currently being wasted on hotel lobby gigs." He sets down his glass. "And I know that the Volkov brothers will eventually learn who warned me tonight. When they do, you'll need protection I can provide." The weight of his words settles over me. He's right. I chose a side tonight without fully understanding what that meant. There's no going back to my invisible life now. How much time do I have to decide? I ask. Until my security finishes processing the men outside. Then I need an answer. He glances at his watch. "I'd estimate you have about 20 minutes to decide the rest of your life. 20 minutes to choose between running and staying. Between the life I've been barely surviving and something entirely unknown. Between safety and whatever this dangerous man is offering. I look at him, really look at him, and see something in his eyes that makes my pulse quicken. Not just danger, not just power, but curiosity, interest, the way he looked at me when I was playing, before the warning, before any of this. Can I ask you something? I say. He nods. When you were watching me play earlier, before dinner, why were you watching me like that? A slow smile spreads across his face, transforming it from intimidating to something else entirely. Something that makes heat pool low in my stomach. Because, he says, moving closer, I've attended 100 dinner parties with 100 forgettable pianists. But you were different. I could see it in the way you touched the keys. Like you were having a conversation with the instrument. Like you were pouring your soul into music most people play mechanically. He stops directly in front of me. I was watching you because I recognize something in you that I see in myself. What's that? Someone who refuses to be invisible, no matter how hard the world tries to make them disappear. Outside, I hear sirens in the distance. Inside, my heart pounds with a rhythm that has nothing to do with fear and everything to do with the man standing before me, offering me a choice that will change everything. I drain the rest of my whiskey, set the glass down with a decisive click, and meet Dante Constantine's dark eyes. I'll stay. The decision hangs in the air between us, final and irrevocable. Constantine's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in his eyes. Satisfaction, perhaps, or relief. Good, he says simply, then moves to his desk and presses a button on the intercom. Marcus, status report. A voice crackles through. All hostiles secured. 8 men all armed. 2 attempted to breach the east gate. 6 were positioned for sniper shots through the dining room windows. We have them in the garage, awaiting your instructions. My stomach turns. Sniper shots. Through the windows where I'd been playing. Where Constantine had been sitting. No police involvement. Constantine asks. Clean. Neighbors are used to your security presence. Number 911 calls logged. Good. Hold them. I'll be down shortly. He releases the button and turns to me. The guests. Mrs. Chun has them in the library with brandy and a very convincing story about a false security alarm, Marcus replies. They're rattled but buying it. Constantine nods, though Marcus can't see him. Have Thomas prepare the guest suite on the 3rd floor. Miss Moretti will be staying with us tonight. My head snaps up. I can go home. No, he says firmly, cutting me off. You can't. The moment those men don't report back to the Volkov brothers, questions will be asked. Security footage will be reviewed. And you, the pianist who was conveniently positioned to see everything, will become a target. The reality of what I've done crashes over me again. For how long? Until I've resolved the situation. He sees my expression, and his voice softens fractionally. A few days, perhaps a week. You'll be comfortable here, I promise. And compensated for the inconvenience. Compensated. As if being hunted by the Mafia is merely an inconvenience, like a delayed flight or a broken appliance. I have a life, Mr. Constantine. A job. An apartment. That you're about to be evicted from, he reminds me gently. Your landlord already has the paperwork filed. I can make that disappear. I can also make sure your student loans are paid in full, your credit restored, and your name added to the roster at the Chicago Symphony Orchestra for their next round of auditions. I stare at him, speechless. The Chicago Symphony. It's the dream I gave up on 2 years ago when rejection after rejection made it clear that talent alone wasn't enough in a world that valued connections and privilege. How? I donate generously to the arts, Elena. Very generously. 1 phone call, and you'll have the audition you deserve. He pauses. Consider it a signing bonus. It's too much, too fast. 12 hours ago I was worried about eviction. Now I'm being offered everything I've ever wanted by a man who apparently has sniper teams at his disposal. Why are you doing this? I ask. You could just pay me to disappear. Why invest so much in someone you just met? Constantine moves to the window, his reflection ghostly in the dark glass. Because talent like yours is rare, Elena. And because you made a choice tonight that showed character even rarer than talent. Courage. Loyalty to strangers. The ability to act under pressure. He turns back to me. Those are qualities I value. Qualities I can use. Use. The word should alarm me, but I'm too overwhelmed by everything else to properly process it. A knock at the door interrupts us. A man enters, younger than Constantine, but with the same air of controlled danger. He's built like a boxer, with a crooked nose that's been broken more than once and sharp blue eyes that assess me in a single glance. Thomas, Constantine says, this is Elena Moretti. She'll be staying in the guest suite. Make sure she has everything she needs. Thomas nods, his expression neutral. Of course, sir. Miss Moretti, if you'll follow me. I stand on unsteady legs, still clutching my empty whiskey glass. Constantine takes it from my trembling fingers, his hand brushing mine. The contact is brief but electric. Get some rest, he says quietly. We'll talk more in the morning. And Elena! He waits until I meet his eyes. Thank you for what you did tonight. The sincerity in his voice catches me off guard. This man, who commands armed teams and makes problems disappear with phone calls, is genuinely thanking me. You're welcome, I whisper. Thomas leads me through the mansion, up the sweeping staircase I'd admired earlier. The third floor is quieter, more private. He opens a door to reveal a suite that makes my studio apartment look like a closet. The bedroom alone is twice the size of my entire living space, with a king-size bed dressed in what looks like Egyptian cotton, a sitting area with a fireplace, and French doors leading to a private balcony. Through another door, I glimpse a bathroom with a soaking tub and a shower that could fit 4 people. Clothes in the closet should fit, Thomas says, nodding toward an ornate armoire. Mrs. Chun keeps a selection for guests. Toiletries in the bathroom. Phone by the bed connects to the kitchen, if you need anything. Don't try to leave the property. The last part isn't a suggestion. What happens if I do? I ask, finding some thread of defiance. Thomas's expression doesn't change. Security will stop you. Politely but firmly. You're here for your own protection, Miss Moretti. Best to remember that. He leaves, closing the door with a soft click. I hear the faint sound of a lock engaging and my stomach drops. Not locked in, surely. I test the handle. It turns freely, opening into the hallway, where I can see Thomas taking up a position in a chair near the stairwell. Not locked in. Just watched. I close the door and lean against it, my legs finally giving out. I slide down to sit on the plush carpet, my mind racing. What have I done? I've traded one cage, poverty, obscurity, desperation, for another. A gilded one, yes, but still a cage. My phone buzzes in my pocket. I pull it out to find 17 missed calls and twice as many texts. The event coordinator, asking where I am. My landlord, threatening eviction again. A friend from Juilliard, wondering if I want to grab cheap drinks tomorrow. Tomorrow. A concept that feels foreign now. What is my tomorrow? Playing Morse code warnings to Mafia bosses? Living in luxury suites under armed guard? I type out a message to the coordinator. Emergency came up. We'll call tomorrow to explain and arrange payment. Then I silence my phone. The closet, when I investigate, contains clothes that aren't just my size but eerily close to my style. Simple, elegant pieces in blacks and navies and grays. I pull out silk pajamas that probably cost more than my monthly food budget and head to the bathroom. The shower is obscenely luxurious, with water pressure that actually works and heat that doesn't run out after 5 minutes. I stand under the spray until my skin is pink and wrinkled, trying to wash away the adrenaline and fear and confusion. When I finally emerge, wrapped in a bathrobe softer than clouds, I find food waiting on the sitting room table. Someone entered while I was showering, leaving a tray with soup, bread, cheese, fruit, and a pot of tea. The thoughtfulness of it brings unexpected tears to my eyes. I eat mechanically, tasting nothing, then climb into the enormous bed. The sheets are as luxurious as I imagined, cool and smooth against my skin. But sleep won't come. Every time I close my eyes, I see muzzle flashes on the security monitors, hear Constantine's voice saying you've chosen a side, feel the weight of my decision settling over me like a shroud. Sometime near dawn, I finally drift off, my dreams full of piano keys that tap out warnings in Morse code and dark eyes that see too much. I wake to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of fresh coffee. For a disoriented moment, I think I'm late for a gig, that I've overslept in some hotel room. Then memory crashes back, and I sit up abruptly. Mrs. Chun stands by the sitting room table, arranging what looks like an entire breakfast buffet. She glances at me with her severe expression. "Good morning, Miss Moretti. Mr. Constantine requests your presence for breakfast at 9. It's currently 8:15, which gives you time to shower and dress." She gestures to the closet. "I've selected appropriate attire. I already showered last night. Then simply dress. Coffee is there if you need it." She moves toward the door, then pauses. "A word of advice, Miss Moretti. Mr. Constantine values punctuality. Don't be late." She leaves, and I'm alone with my thoughts and an intimidating array of breakfast foods. I pour coffee, dark and perfect, and move to the closet to see what Mrs. Chun considers appropriate. It's a pair of tailored black pants and a silk blouse in deep burgundy, simple but elegant. They fit perfectly, because of course they do. In the bathroom, I find high-end makeup and styling tools. By the time I'm finished, I look like a different person. Polished. Professional. Like I belong in a mansion instead of a studio apartment with broken heating. At precisely 9, I open my door to find Thomas waiting. He nods approvingly at my punctuality and leads me downstairs to a sunny breakfast room I didn't see last night. Constantine sits at a table by the windows, reading something on a tablet, a cup of espresso at his elbow. He looks up as I enter, and something shifts in his expression. Appreciation, maybe, or approval. "Good morning, Elena. Please sit." I take the chair across from him, hyper-aware of his presence, of the way the morning light catches the silver in his hair, of how his dress shirt, white, perfectly pressed, emphasizes his broad shoulders. A staff member appears instantly, pouring more coffee, offering food. I accept fruit and toast. My appetite non-existent, but my need for something to do with my hands desperate. "How did you sleep?" Constantine asks, setting aside his tablet. "Eventually," I admit. A slight smile. "The first night is always difficult. It gets easier. How many people have you held captive here?" The words slip out before I can stop them. But instead of anger, he laughs. Actually laughs, the sound rich and genuine. "You're not a captive, Elena. You're a guest under protective custody. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Because I have an armed guard outside my door." "For your protection," he says patiently. "The Volkov brothers don't know your name yet, but they will soon. When they do, you'll be grateful for Thomas." I sip my coffee, needing the caffeine and the moment to compose myself. "What happened to the men from last night?" His expression hardens. "They're being questioned. Once I have the information I need, they'll be dealt with." "Dealt with?" I don't ask what that means. I'm not sure I want to know. "The dinner guests?" I ask instead. "Sent home late last night with generous gift baskets and a story about a security malfunction. None of them will speak of it. They know better. Of course they do. Because this is Constantine's world, where armed assaults are handled quietly and witnesses are managed with gift baskets and implied threats. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. "I need to explain your new role," Constantine says, pulling a folder from beside his plate. "You'll be more than just a pianist now, though you'll continue playing at select events when needed. Your real value is your ability to observe, to notice details others miss. Last night proved that." He slides the folder across to me. I open it to find documents, photographs, names I don't recognize. "These are my business associates," he continues. "Study them. Learn to recognize faces, read body language, detect lies. You'll accompany me to meetings, dinners, social events. Most people dismiss attractive women as decoration. They'll speak freely around you, never imagining you're cataloging every word. You want me to spy for you? I want you to use your natural observational skills in a professional capacity." He meets my eyes steadily. "You noticed the men outside last night when my own security almost missed them. You decoded a threat and communicated it without causing panic. Those aren't skills that can be taught, Elena. They're instinct. I'm simply asking you to apply them in a broader context." I study the folder, my mind racing. On one level, it's insane. I'm a musician, not a spy. But on another level, he's right. I've spent years reading audiences, sensing mood shifts, knowing when to adjust my playing to match the room's energy. These skills aren't so different. And the Chicago Symphony audition? I ask. Is that contingent on my agreement? No, he says, surprising me. That's yours regardless. Consider it payment for saving my life. Everything else, the salary, the protection, the opportunity to be part of something larger than hotel lobbies and coffee shops, that's what I'm offering in exchange for your service. Service, not employment, not partnership. Service to a man who operates outside the law, who has people dealt with, who lives in a fortress and needs bodyguards at dinner parties. But also a man who values talent and courage, who keeps his promises if his reputation is accurate, who looks at me like I'm worth something more than the tips people leave in a jar. What's the salary? I ask, because I need to be practical even as my moral compass spins wildly. He names a figure that makes me choke on my coffee. It's more than I made in the entire last year. For 1 month. That's insane. That's what you're worth to me. He leans back, studying me. I don't make frivolous investments, Elena. I believe you'll earn every penny. We spend the morning in his study while he briefs me on the complex web of his business dealings. Some legitimate, real estate, import-export companies, restaurants. Others existing in legal gray areas. A few outright illegal. He doesn't hide anything, which surprises me. If you're going to work for me, you need to understand what you're part of, he explains. I won't insult you with half-truths. By noon, my head is spinning with names and connections and the realization that Constantine's empire is far larger and more complex than I imagined. He doesn't just operate in Chicago. He has interests across the country, connections to organizations in New York, Los Angeles, even overseas. The Volkov brothers, I say during a break, needing to understand the threat. Why do they want you dead? Constantine pours us both water from a crystal carafe. Because I acquired territory they believed was theirs. A shipping port in Gary, Indiana. Valuable for moving goods without excessive scrutiny. He hands me a glass. They made an offer. I made a better one. They don't forgive being outbid. So this is about money. It's always about money, Elena. Or power. Usually both. He sits on the edge of his desk, a more casual posture than I've seen from him. Alexei and Dmitry Volkov run a brutal operation. They believe fear and violence are the only tools worth using. I prefer more subtle approaches, like bribing symphony boards. A slight smile. Exactly. Why burn bridges when you can build them? I sip my water, processing. Last night, you said your father was friends with my grandfather. Was that true? Or were you just trying to establish common ground? Something shifts in his expression, a crack in the polished facade. It was true. Antonio Moretti worked for my father in the early days. Before I was born, my father was building his empire from nothing, and your grandfather was one of his most trusted men. What happened to him? Constantine's eyes grow distant. He was killed during a territorial dispute, caught in crossfire meant for my father. He saved my father's life by pushing him out of the way, taking the bullets himself. My chest tightens. I never knew. Nona, my grandmother, she never told me how he died. Just that it was sudden, that he was working. Your grandmother probably wanted to protect you from the truth. That your grandfather died in the service of a man like my father. Like me. The parallel isn't lost on me. Here I am, being drawn into the same world that killed my grandfather. Is that what happens to people who work for you? They die protecting you. Sometimes, he says quietly, honestly. This life doesn't come with guarantees, Elena. I won't pretend it does. But I will promise you this. I protect what's mine. And if you accept this position, you become mine to protect. Mine. The possessiveness of the word should alarm me. Instead, it sends warmth through my chest. A knock interrupts us. Thomas enters, his expression grim. Sir, we have a problem. The questioning reveals something you need to know. Constantine straightens immediately. Go ahead. The Volkovs didn't just send those men to kill you. They sent them to grab someone. One of your people, to use as leverage. Thomas's eyes flicked to me. Specifically, they were ordered to take the pianist if the opportunity presented itself. Ice floods my veins. They knew about me? Before last night. They knew Constantine hired a pianist for the dinner, Thomas explains. Standard intelligence gathering. But they didn't have your name, or details, just that there would be someone in the dining room who might see them position outside. Constantine's jaw clenches. They were going to take her regardless of whether she warned me or not. Looks that way. Insurance, they called it. A bargaining chip if the main assault failed. My hands are shaking. I set down my water glass before I drop it. So I was always going to be a target. Yes, Constantine says, his voice hard as granite. Which means you were never safe, even before you made the choice to warn me. They put you in play the moment Mrs. Chin hired you. The revelation shifts everything. I didn't choose this danger by tapping out Morse code. I was already chosen, already marked, already part of this whether I knew it or not. Constantine moves to stand in front of me, his presence grounding. This changes nothing about my offer, but it does mean the timeline has accelerated. The Volkovs will assume you're with me now, under my protection. They'll be looking for opportunities to take you, to hurt me through you. How long? My voice is steadier than I feel. How long until this is over? Until I've neutralized the threat. He touches my chin, tilting my face up to meet his eyes. The gesture is surprisingly gentle. Days, weeks, I can't say for certain. But I promise you, Elena, they won't touch you. I won't allow it. The intensity in his eyes, the certainty in his voice, makes me believe him. This man, who I've known less than 24 hours, who operates in a world of violence and moral ambiguity, will protect me. Not because he has to, but because he's claimed me as his. Okay, I whisper. I trust you. Something flares in his eyes. He releases my chin but doesn't step back. You shouldn't. Trust is dangerous in this world, and yet you're asking me to work for you, to observe your enemies, to be part of your operation. That requires trust on both sides. A slow smile spreads across his face. You're right. And yes, I trust you, Elena Moretti. Against all logic and professional caution, I trust you. The moment stretches between us, charged with something beyond mere professional arrangement. Then Thomas clears his throat, breaking the spell. Sir, we should increase security protocols. Extra detail on Miss Moretti whenever she's outside the property. Constantine nods. All business again. Agreed. And Thomas, have Marcus run another background check on everyone who was at the dinner last night. Someone gave the Volkovs the guest list. I want to know who. Thomas leaves, and I'm alone with Constantine again. But the atmosphere has shifted. We're not employer and employee discussing terms. We're two people bound together by danger and circumstance, and something neither of us is quite ready to name. I should practice, I say, needing space to process everything. The Steinway in the drawing room. May I? Of course. The piano is yours whenever you want it. He pauses. And Elena, this afternoon, I'd like you to join me for a meeting. Nothing dangerous, just business associates. A chance to observe, to start learning how to read the room. I nod, then head toward the drawing room, feeling his eyes on me until I turn the corner. The Steinway welcomes me like an old friend. I sit, letting my fingers find the keys and begin to play. Not Chopin or Mozart this time, but Rachmaninoff. Complex, emotional, demanding. The music pours out of me, carrying all the fear and confusion and unexpected attraction I can't put into words. I don't know how long I play, lost in the music, but when I finally surface, I find Constantine standing in the doorway, watching me with an expression that makes my breath catch. Beautiful, he says softly. Absolutely beautiful. And I know he's not just talking about the music. The meeting that afternoon takes place in a downtown office building, unremarkable from the outside but clearly expensive within. Constantine's hand rests on the small of my back as we ride the elevator to the 15th floor, Thomas and another bodyguard flanking us. Remember, Constantine murmurs, you're here as my associate. Listen more than you speak. Watch faces when they think no one is paying attention. The conference room holds 4 men in expensive suits, all middle-aged, all exuding the kind of power that comes from old money and older connections. They stand as we enter, shaking Constantine's hand with varying degrees of warmth. Gentlemen, Constantine says smoothly, may I introduce Elena Moretti, my new consultant. Their eyes assess me with undisguised interest. One, a silver-haired man named Castellano, holds my hand a beat too long. A pleasure, Miss Moretti. I don't believe we've met before. I'm new to Mr. Constantine's organization, I reply, keeping my voice professional. We sit, and the meeting begins. They discuss shipping routes and import licenses, warehouses and distribution networks. On the surface, it's all perfectly legitimate business. But I catch the subtext, the coded language. They're discussing drug shipments, using ports Constantine controls to move product without detection. I keep my expression neutral, taking mental notes as Constantine instructed. But I'm watching faces, reading body language. 3 of the men seem relaxed, engaged. But the 4th, a thin man named Russo, keeps checking his phone under the table. His leg bounces nervously. He avoids eye contact with Constantine. When Constantine proposes new distribution terms, Russo is the only one who objects. These margins are too narrow, he complains. We're taking all the risk. The risk is distributed proportionally to reward, Constantine counters smoothly. As it's always been. Maybe the old terms need renegotiation. Russo's voice has an edge. Maybe some of us are tired of being junior partners in your empire. The temperature in the room drops perceptibly. Castellano shoots Russo a warning look, but the damage is done. I see, Constantine says quietly. Well, this is certainly an interesting development. Russo, perhaps you and I should speak privately after. His phone buzzes, then mine, then every phone in the room simultaneously. Thomas enters quickly, his face pale. Sir, we need to leave. Now. Constantine's hand finds mine under the table, squeezing once. Reassurance or warning, I'm not sure. What's happened? Bomb threat. This building. Called in 2 minutes ago, specifically naming this floor, this conference room. Thomas's eyes sweep the room. Could be a bluff, but we can't take chances. We're moving instantly, Constantine keeping me close as we head for the elevator. But Thomas steers us away. Stairs. Faster and safer. 15 floors of stairs and heels is a nightmare, but fear gives me speed. We're not alone. Other building occupants are evacuating too, creating chaos in the stairwell. I lose sight of the other men from the meeting in the crush of bodies. We burst out onto the street to find police cars arriving, fire trucks in the distance. Constantine pulls me toward his waiting car, but then I hear it. A sound that doesn't belong. A crack, sharp and distinct over the noise of evacuation. Gunfire. Constantine shoves me behind the car, just as the window above us shatters. Glass rains down. More shots, and I realize they're not random. They're aimed. At us. Thomas returns fire, his weapon appearing from nowhere. The bodyguard, whose name I don't know, positions himself between Constantine and the direction of the shots. Get her in the car, Constantine shouts. But I freeze, terror locking my muscles. I've never been shot at before, never heard bullets meant to kill hitting metal and concrete around me. The noise is deafening, the chaos overwhelming. Constantine grabs me, half carrying me to the car door. Elena, move! Now! His urgency breaks through my paralysis. I dive into the back seat, and he follows, his body covering mine as more shots pepper the vehicle. The driver accelerates before the doors are fully closed, tires squealing. I'm shaking violently, my ears ringing. Constantine lifts himself off me slightly, his hands on my face. Are you hurt? Elena, look at me. Are you hurt? I shake my head, unable to speak. He runs his hands over my arms, my sides, checking for injuries with practiced efficiency. Finding none, he pulls me against his chest, one hand cradling the back of my head. You're safe, he murmurs. I've got you. You're safe. But I'm not safe. Neither of us are. Because this wasn't random violence. This was coordinated. The bomb threat to force evacuation, the shooter waiting outside. They knew we'd be here. Which means, someone in that meeting set us up. I gasp out, my face pressed against Constantine's chest. Someone told them where we'd be. Yes, he agrees grimly. Someone did. I pull back to look at him. Russo. He was nervous the whole time, checking his phone. He knew. Constantine's eyes sharpen. You noticed that? He was the only one whose body language didn't match his words. Everyone else was engaged with the discussion, but he was distracted, waiting for something. Pride flashes across Constantine's face. See, you're already proving your worth. His expression hardens. Thomas, put out a call. I want Russo found. Now. Through the rearview mirror, I see Thomas speaking rapidly into his phone. Behind us, another of Constantine's vehicles follows, ensuring we're not pursued. My hands are still shaking. The adrenaline is wearing off, leaving me cold and nauseous. They tried to kill us. In broad daylight, in front of witnesses. The Volkovs are getting desperate, Constantine says. Which makes them more dangerous. They're past caring about subtlety. Because of what I did. Because I warned you last night. Because they're losing and they know it. His thumb strokes my cheek, the gesture tender despite the violence we just escaped. This isn't your fault, Elena. This war started long before you played Morse code on my piano. But I'm part of it now. Fully, irrevocably part of it. Not because I chose to warn him, but because the Volkovs chose to make me a target the moment I was hired to play at that dinner. We arrive back at the mansion to find it in lockdown mode. Armed guards patrol the perimeter. The gates are reinforced. Every entrance is monitored. Constantine helps me out of the car, his hand steady on my elbow as my legs threaten to give out. Mrs. Chin appears at the door, her composure cracking slightly when she sees us. Sir, thank God. We heard about the shooting. Prep the secure room, Constantine instructs. Full communications locked down until we identify everyone involved in the breach. He guides me inside and up to my suite, but doesn't leave me at the door. He follows me in, closing it behind us. Sit, he says gently, steering me to the sofa. I sit, and he kneels before me, removing my heels. My feet are bleeding where the frantic stare descent rubbed them raw. He examines them with a frown. I'll get the first aid kit. I'm fine, I protest weakly. You're not fine. You were almost killed today. He disappears into the bathroom, returning with supplies. His hands are surprisingly gentle as he cleans and bandages my feet. I'm sorry, Elena. I should have anticipated they'd move this fast. How could you? I didn't even know I'd be at that meeting until this morning. Which means the leak is close. Someone in my inner circle. His jaw clenches. I'll find them. When he finishes with my feet, he sits beside me on the sofa. We're quiet for a moment, the weight of what happened settling over us. I was so scared, I admit quietly. When the shooting started, I couldn't move. I just froze. That's a normal reaction. You did fine. His arm comes around my shoulders, pulling me against his side. Better than fine. You identified the traitor when my own people didn't. I let myself lean into him, drawing comfort from his solid warmth. What happens now? Now we find everyone involved in today's attack. We identify the leak. And we end this, permanently. His voice is dark with promise. The Volkovs wanted a war. I'll give them one. His phone buzzes. He checks it, and satisfaction crosses his face. They found Russo. He's being brought in for questioning. What will you do to him? That depends on what he tells us. He stands, helping me up gently. Rest. I need to handle this, but Thomas will be outside your door. You're safe here. He starts to leave, then turns back. In 2 strides, he's in front of me again, his hands cupping my face. What you did today, noticing Russo, staying calm despite the danger, I need you to know how impressed I am. How valuable you are. Then he kisses me. Not gentle like I might expect, but fierce, possessive, claiming. His lips are firm against mine, demanding a response I give without thinking. My hands fist in his shirt, pulling him closer, needing the contact, the affirmation that we're both alive. When he pulls back, we're both breathing hard. I'll keep you safe, he promises against my lips. Whatever it takes. Then he's gone, leaving me alone with my racing heart and the taste of him on my lips. I sink onto the sofa, touching my mouth, feeling the imprint of his kiss like a brand. This morning I was just a pianist learning to spy. Tonight I'm something more. Something I don't have a name for yet, but that feels inevitable, dangerous, and absolutely right. Outside my window, the sun sets over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold. Beautiful and violent, like everything else in Constantine's world. 3 days pass in a blur of heightened security and escalating tension. Russo, under interrogation, revealed the full scope of the Volkov brothers' plan. The attack at the office building was just the beginning. They have people embedded throughout Constantine's organization, waiting for the signal to strike. I spend my days learning the business, studying faces, sitting in on meetings where I observe and report back to Constantine. My nights are different. Constantine joins me for dinner in the formal dining room, just the two of us, and we talk. Not about business, but about music, about our childhoods, about the people we've lost. I learned that his mother died when he was 12, that his father was killed in a territorial dispute when Constantine was 23, forcing him to take over an empire he wasn't ready for. He learns that my parents died in a car accident when I was 16, that my grandmother raised me on stories of Italy and the importance of beauty in a harsh world. She would have liked you, I tell him one evening over wine. Nona. She always said the most dangerous men were the ones who appreciated art. Was she right? Constantine asks, his dark eyes holding mine across the table. I'm beginning to think so. The attraction between us grows with each passing day, each shared meal, each moment when his hand lingers on mine or our eyes meet across a room. But he doesn't kiss me again. Despite the heat that simmers between us, despite the way I catch him watching me with undisguised want, he maintains a careful distance. Until the fourth night, I'm in the music room, a space I discovered on the second floor, smaller than the drawing room but with perfect acoustics and a beautiful old Bosendorfer piano. I'm playing Beethoven's Appassionata, pouring my frustration and confusion and desire into the keys. I don't hear him enter. I only know he's there when I feel his presence behind me, that electric awareness that comes whenever he's near. My fingers still on the keys. How long have you been standing there? Long enough. His voice is rough, strained. You play differently when you think you're alone. More raw. More honest. I turn on the bench to face him. He's shed his jacket, his shirt sleeves rolled up, hair slightly disheveled. He looks more human than I've ever seen him, less controlled. Why are you here, Dante? I use his first name deliberately, testing the intimacy of it. Something flares in his eyes at the sound of his name on my lips. Because I can't stay away from you anymore. Because every meeting, every dinner, every moment I spend with you makes it harder to remember why I'm supposed to keep my distance. My heart pounds. And why are you supposed to keep your distance? Because you deserve better than this world. Better than me. He moves closer, his hands gripping the back of the piano bench on either side of me, caging me in. Because once I have you, Elena, I won't let you go. And that's not fair to you. Constantine's vehicle pulls alongside ours. Through the window, his eyes find mine. He's covered in soot and what might be blood, his expression fierce and terrible and relieved all at once. We made it. Barely, but we made it. The safe house is 40 minutes outside the city, a nondescript farmhouse surrounded by empty fields. We regroup there, tending wounds, counting losses, processing what happened. Constantine finds me in the kitchen, where I'm mechanically making coffee because I need something to do with my shaking hands. He doesn't say anything, just pulls me into his arms, holding me so tightly I can barely breathe. You were supposed to stay safe, he says against my hair, his voice rough. You were supposed to stay in the vehicle. I did stay in the vehicle. I pull back to look at him. But I use my brain, like you hired me to do. Don't punish me for being good at my job. He laughs, the sound edged with exhaustion and relief. Good at your job? Elena, you orchestrated an explosion that took out half the Volkov operation and saved my entire team. That's not good. That's extraordinary. Did we get them? The brothers. His expression darkens. Alexei is dead, killed in the building collapse. Dmitri escaped, but he's wounded and running. It's over, Elena. They have no organization left, no resources. He'll either die from his injuries or flee the country. Either way, he's not a threat anymore. Over. The word feels impossible after days of constant tension and fear. The men we lost? I ask quietly. 4 dead, 3 wounded. Good men, loyal men. He closes his eyes briefly. Their families will be taken care of. That's all I can offer them now. I touch his face, making him look at me. This is who you are. What you do. People die in your world, Dante. But you honor them, you protect their families, and you keep fighting. That counts for something. Does it? He sounds so tired, so much older than his years. Or am I just a monster who's good at rationalizing? You're not a monster. I kiss him softly. Monsters don't fall in love. They don't risk everything to protect people. They don't give second chances to broke pianists who stumble into their lives. He pulls me close again, and we stand there in the quiet kitchen, holding each other while the sun rises over empty fields and distant sirens fade into silence. Over the next week, the pieces fall into place. Rousseau and the other embedded operatives are dealt with, I don't ask how. Constantine consolidates his control over the territories the Volkovs left behind. The Chicago underworld adjusts to its new hierarchy, and relative peace settles over the city. My Chicago Symphony audition happens on a bright Thursday afternoon. I play Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, pouring everything I've learned, everything I've survived into the performance. The panel is impressed. I can see it in their faces, but they're non-committal about next steps. 2 days later, I receive the call. I'm invited to join as second piano, with the potential for first chair when it opens up next season. I'm crying when I tell Constantine, joy and relief, and the vindication of years of struggle flooding through me. He pulls me into his arms, kisses me deeply. I'm proud of you, he says, but I'm not surprised. You're extraordinary, Elena, with or without my connections. About those connections, I say carefully. I want this position, but I need to know, is it mine because I earned it, or because you made calls? He cups my face, looking at me with complete honesty. I made the introduction, got you the audition. But that performance, that was all you. They wanted you based on talent alone. It's enough. It has to be. We settle into a new rhythm. I practice during the day, learning orchestral pieces, and preparing for my first season. I attend meetings with Constantine when needed, my observational skills proving as valuable as he predicted. We've identified 2 more potential security threats before they could materialize, and my presence at business dinners has become expected. You've made me legitimate, Constantine jokes one evening over dinner. The crime lord with the symphony pianist girlfriend. Very civilized. Is that what I am? I ask, raising an eyebrow. Your girlfriend. His expression grows serious. He sets down his wine, reaches into his pocket, and pulls out a small velvet box. My heart stops. Elena Moretti, he says, opening the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. You crashed into my life playing wrong notes that saved it. You've made me feel things I thought I'd buried with my humanity. You've stood beside me through violence and danger when you could have run. He takes my hand. I told you that first night that once I had you, I wouldn't let you go. I meant it. Marry me. Not because it's logical or safe or expected, but because I love you more than I thought possible. Because you're the music in my violent world, the beauty that makes all of this worth fighting for. Tears stream down my face. I should think about this, weigh the implications, consider the future. But my heart already knows the answer. Yes, I whisper. Yes, I'll marry you. He slides the ring onto my finger, and it fits perfectly. Of course it does. He probably had my measurements from that first background check, planned this moment from the beginning. He kisses me with tenderness and possession and promise, and I kiss him back with everything I am, everything I've become. 6 months later, we marry in a private ceremony at the mansion. No white dress, no church, but beauty nonetheless. I wear burgundy silk, he wears charcoal gray, and we exchange vows written in a mixture of English and Italian, honoring my grandfather and his father, the friendship that bound them and now binds us. The Chicago Symphony opens its season, and I play my first performance as part of the orchestra. Constantine sits in the front row, his eyes never leaving me, pride evident in his face. My life is nothing like I imagined when I climbed those mansion steps 5 months ago to play background music at a dinner party. It's dangerous and complex and morally ambiguous. I'm married to a man who operates in shadows, who has blood on his hands, who will always be a target for people who want what he's built. But I'm also loved fiercely and completely. I play music that matters, use skills I didn't know I had, live with purpose instead of just surviving. I've found my place in the world, even if that place exists on the edge of darkness and light. Some nights, when I can't sleep, I go to the music room and play. Constantine finds me there, pulls me into his arms, and we slow dance to melodies only we can hear. Any regrets? He asks during one of these moments, his cheek against my hair. I think about the scared, broke pianist I was. I think about the woman I've become, stronger, braver, more alive than ever before. Not one, I say honestly. You. Only that I didn't find you sooner. He kisses my temple. But we have now. We have every day going forward. Every day. I agree, tilting my face up for his kiss. Outside, the city sleeps. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new dangers, new opportunities. But tonight, we have each other. And in Constantine's arms, with music in my heart and a future stretching before us, I know I made the right choice. I played the wrong notes at exactly the right moment. And in doing so, I found not just safety or security, but something infinitely more valuable. I found love. I found purpose. I found home. Not in a place, but in a person. In the dangerous, devoted, impossible man who heard my warning and chose to keep me. Who saw potential where I saw only failure. Who loved me not despite my complexities, but because of them. This is my life now. Our life. Built on a foundation of Morse code and midnight conversations, of bullets survived and passion ignited, of two souls finding each other in the most unlikely circumstances and refusing to let go. And I wouldn't change a single note. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love the story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.